I've helped dozens of people buy a new construction home here in St. Augustine, Florida, but along the way, I've definitely made some mistakes in guiding my clients in the best way to go about buying a new construction home in terms of dealing with the contracts, in terms of dealing with the builders, and I've actually learned from those mistakes, which is a great thing for you if you are considering buying a new construction home here in St. Johns County. These 5 secrets we're about to go into can save you time, stress, and thousands of dollars if you know before you sign.
What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida. And if you're looking to
buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida. Now, for the most part, buying a new construction home in the entire state of Florida is pretty simple. You go, you pick a lot, you pick a floor plan, you figure out what the price is going to be, and you sign the contract. But there are some major pitfalls that come with the builder standard contract that a lot of these builders use, and you need to know about them before you sign the contract. And it's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it's also going to save you stress, which in reality, that's one of the biggest things that a lot of us want off our plate, especially in today's world. So in this video, my main goal is to share 5 secrets that you need to know about that the builders won't tell you about, and also relate some of my personal experiences with helping buyers through these processes. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to protect your money, avoid costly mistakes, and make sure that the home you're actually building is worth it. So let's go ahead and get started with the number 1 secret, which is the base price is a trap. So you've probably done this before where you've gone into a new construction community, you've seen the advertisements, whether it's online or it's at the sign at the entrance of the community, and they say, our homes start in the high 3s, low 400s. And then when you go down to sit and look at the numbers after you already romanticize you living in one of these floor plans, you find out that it's actually $50,000 to $100,000 more expensive than you were expecting based on the advertisements that they have. So what the builders do, and this is really their marketing price, is they put out the base price of the home. So without the lot, without the structural upgrades, without any design features in the home, they give you the base price. So that's just like, hey, if we built the home standard and we didn't even put it on a piece of land, this is what it's going to cost. So that's where they really advertise. And you can actually see this in real time if you're looking on Zillow or Realtor.com, when you're looking at the certain new construction community, and you'll see homes that have a definitive price. They say, hey, this one's $439, this one's $600, this one's $1 million, whichever it is, those are normally right. But if you're looking at a new construction community and you see a plus sign at the end of any of those, you're basically looking at that floor plan and what the base price of that plan is. Now you got to add the lot, you got to add the structural upgrades, and you got to add the design center features. And that can definitely be misleading. You know, when you're attracted to a neighborhood, you see, hey, we're buying down your interest rate, we're paying for your closing costs, oh, and we're really in the high 3s, low 4s. You're like, oh man, this is perfect, this is where I want to go. But then you start to uncover like, okay, well, the lot fee is an extra $20,000, $30,000, $60,000, the structural design options, and then because they did the bathroom to the 9s and they have the beautiful countertop in the kitchen, that's going to add another $20,000, $30,000 as well. So as it comes out in the wash, you're going to be spending an extra $50,000 to $100,000 on that home that you thought was in the high 3s or low 4s. That can be very disappointing. Top 5 new construction communities that my personal clients have been interested in. So it's just, I'm just putting together the amount of sales that I have and just ranking them essentially where my clients wanted to go. So if you're just like me or just like my clients, you might find good value in this video. And here's a little pro tip if you are building a new construction home and you're not using me. Make sure you ask what the average buyer spends on the design center upgrades when they go into it. Now, many of the homes in the $300 to $500 range in our area, they don't even have a design center option. They're all speculation homes. So the builder is picking the designs out, they're building them, they're moving forward with it, and they're saying, hey, do you want a house? We got them for sale. If you don't like it, well, this guy likes it, so he'll buy it. So really under $500,000, the design center option isn't there. But once you get north of $500,000, you know, you're really going to be able to pick and choose how you build your house. But you want to make sure no matter what community you're looking in, you want to see what is the average person spending on design center upgrades. The lot premiums and the structural upgrades should all be around about the same depending on what you're going for. If you want an extended patio, you want a 3rd-car garage, those are all going to cost about the same regardless of the floor plan. But if you're looking at like design center, like, well, I picked this certain tile and I want this in the shower and I want this in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff and I want this tile floor throughout, that can add up pretty quickly, and you wouldn't even think about that as you're in contract because you have your rose-colored glasses on. You want to design the home that you want, but you also could bust out that price tag. So in general, from what I see for most people, is that they're going to spend about 10% of the base price of the home back into the house in design center upgrades. So if you're buying a $600,000 house, you're more than likely going to spend around $60,000 to put back in the house at the design center. And secret number 2 is the on-site salesperson at any builder works exclusively for the builder. They don't work for you and your best interest. Now, many of these people are extremely nice and they will do what's best for you and help you move forward. But there are some that are just straight salespeople and they don't have your best interests at heart. They're looking out for their bottom line and how many closings they're going to have that month, and also the builder. So they're not looking out for you and your best interest. So if you go into a new construction community and you sign a contract with someone, or if you just register a card with them, you're pretty much saying like, hey, I'm not using a realtor, and the builder can use that registration and say like, hey, we're not letting any realtors to help you, assist you through this process. And another caveat to that is that a lot of people think that, hey, if I go here and I don't have a realtor, I'm going to save the 3% that the realtor would normally charge me. And from my conversation with builder reps, that's not happening at all. They're not giving that back to the buyer. They're giving it to the profits of the builder. Why would they, right? It doesn't cost them that additional money. They could probably just write off paying the agent as an expense. So they almost want it because it helps them with their tax base at the end of the year. I literally just had this happen and it's super frustrating, and it's with a site rep that I know. I wasn't a big fan of working with him in the past. I used another site rep for all my other deals, but I had someone that gave me a call, said, hey, I'm interested in buying a home. They went over to a certain community and I knew the site rep there, and I told them ahead of time, hey, don't sign anything. If you want to go check it out, don't sign anything. Don't move forward with anything without talking to me, and we can take the next steps if you're ready. He was like, yeah, fine. I'm not even looking to do that today. I'm just previewing the neighborhoods. I just want to see if I like it or not. Totally fine. He ended up having a conversation with the site rep. He told the site rep, hey, I'm going to be working with Thomas. You know him already. He knows you. So that's going to be my realtor as we move forward. And he went ahead and he got pre-approved. So he didn't sign anything at the actual sales office, but he said, hey, what's the next steps? What do I need to do? So he went and got pre-approved with their lender, and now the site rep says, no, you can't even use a realtor. You can't talk to him. So not exactly the best thing for my client. I really have a vendetta against the site rep now, because like that's just not good business. Like if you treated me right, I'm going to bring more people to you, opposed to now I'm not bringing anyone to you. So in my opinion, not his best move, but that kind of stuff does happen. And now this buyer can go unrepresented working with this builder, and he doesn't know all the steps. So now he's texting me, asking me all these kind of things, and I'm helping him where I can. But at the end of the day, I'm not involved in the transaction. I'm also not getting paid. I'm just being friendly. So whether you're using me or using another agent and you're exploring all these new construction communities, just tell your agent, hey, I'm going to be viewing this community, that community, this community. Can you go ahead and reach out to the sales rep and pre-register me under you so that I'm protected? And that's probably the best way to go about it. Aside from that, just don't sign anything if you're working with someone or you plan to work with someone to help you through this transaction. And the third secret is that the contract is written exclusively to protect the builder. It's not your standard sales contract that we have on resale homes. So all the contracts, if you're buying a home that was 10 years old or 5 years old or 2 years home, it's not coming from a builder. That is a separate contract. That's a Florida standard contract that all of us realtors are trained on, right? And those contracts are exclusively written to favor the buyer and protect the buyer. In a builder contract, the contract is written exclusively to favor the builder and protect the builder. Many of the builder contracts include non-refundable deposits. They also include no appraisal contingencies, which is a big one I'll tell you a story about in just a bit. They also have like builder controlled timelines. So like if the builder gets the CO and you're not ready to close, they'll force closing. And then if not, they'll say, hey, if you're not going to close, it's going to be $1,000 a day, every single day. And that's just an exaggeration, but that is something that can happen. Typically the builder will flex a little bit with it, but they do have that stipulation written in the contract that you would sign. So technically, you have to agree to it. And then also limited inspection rights. And most builders are working with inspectors. It's really for their good name. If they didn't, it would look really, really shady, especially if something went wrong. But they're only going to let you have certain windows where you can have these inspections, and they're very, very tight. And if you're not staying on top of the builder, outside of them communicating with you, you could blow past these timelines and the builder would be like, sorry, you didn't let us know you want to do the inspection. And that's a very real thing. That happens all the time, and I've had it happen to my clients where, necessarily we were keeping on top of them, but they weren't telling us the right timeline, and then things just got fudged up, and then we missed a pre-drywall inspection, which in my opinion is one of the most important. So when you're talking about a builder contract, the one thing that you could do is review this yourself, right? And you really do want to make sure you understand what you're signing. The hard thing is that it's a huge document. So maybe you want to load it up into a chat GPT or something and tell me, hey, tell me what's wrong with this thing. Let's go through this. Tell me my protections. Tell me where I have the pitfalls of this contract. ChatGPT will put it in there and spit it out. The other option is you can review it with your realtor, but at the end of the day, we're not lawyers, right? So we're interpreting a legal contract the best that we can. All we can really do is read it to you line by line and say, like, this is what this means. The best thing you can do is take that contract and go to a lawyer, a real estate lawyer, an attorney, pay them the money and just go through it so you have a full understanding of what you're getting into and what you're signing. So let's back up to that appraisal contingency. And this is something that is really important, especially if you're buying a home with a conventional loan. They don't have any appraisal contingencies. If you're buying with an FHA or a VA loan, just based on those loan programs, they have to have an appraisal. There's no doubt about it. So you have the protection just by going with the loan if you're going with an FHA or VA loan. If you're using a conventional loan, there's no appraisal contingency with the builder contract 99% of the time. So that means that if the house doesn't appraise, let's say if you're under contract for $750,000 and the house appraises at $725,000, there's a $25,000 gap that needs to be made up. And it needs to be made up either by the seller, the builder, or needs to be made up by the buyer, or a combination of both. So that $25,000 gap, maybe the seller comes down. In a lot of situations, the builder will come down and meet the contract price, because at the end of the day, they don't want to lose a sale. But technically, according to the contract, they could say, no, you need to come up with that $25,000, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. And that's a huge chunk of change for anyone to just, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll just throw $25,000 at it. But according to the contract, that's what you got to do. And that's one of the major pitfalls of a builder standard contract. So to recap all that, you want to make sure that if you are buying a home, you know what sales have happened if you're using a conventional loan, so that you know that your home will appraise, especially after you go to the lot premium, design center, all that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that you have a good understanding of where that's going to be. You also want to make sure that you understand the contract and what you're getting into. So whether you review it yourself, you review it with AI, you review it with a lawyer, you review it with a realtor, you want to do everything you can to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. And the fourth secret about building a new construction home here in St. Augustine is that the builder controls the timeline. So just like I mentioned before, like if the builder has a CO and he said, like with CO certificate of occupancy, he says, hey, we want to close. It's not up to you like, oh, well, hey, I'm not ready. I need 2 more weeks. It's not really up to you according to the contract, right? But at the same time, if they say, hey, you know what? You're about to build a house from lot. It's going to take you 6 months, 8 months to build that home. You could plan for 6 to 8 months, but it could take 10. It could take 5, right? It just depends on their process and how quickly things move. And it really makes it hard for you as a buyer to be able to predict what you got to do. The most heads up that they're going to give you is about 30 days out from closing. A lot of times once cabinets go into the property, that's when they have a good idea, like, okay, out from this point we can close in 30 days. And that's when they'll really notify you. So it could be up in the air. And that could also change as well. If they don't get the certificate of occupancy, they can't close on the home. And that's not the builder, that they're waiting on the county to give them that CO, right? That's something that they can't control. A situation I had, now this was during COVID, so the timelines of everything was thrown off. A normal home that would have taken 3 to 4 months to build was taking 6, 8, 10 months. A lot of the builder timelines were 14, 16 months out, which is insanity to think about. But that's what was going on. They had supply chain issues, and they also had worker issues as well. Now, here in Florida, we also have hurricanes too. So, these massive catastrophic events can cause huge delays in not only building, but like the areas. I mean, think about like if your area got hit with a hurricane, it's hard to get around if the roads are closed and there's trees down on the road and the power's out. That all adds up to screwing up your timeline completely. And that's a very real possibility here. But to get back to the story during COVID, I had a buyer who was moving from California, and they had sold their house out there. They had a moving truck, and we had an estimated day to close. But one of the things that we couldn't get, and the builder had no control over, I have no control over, is they couldn't get a water meter for that specific home. they can't get a water meter, they can't close on the house, right? So all they're doing is waiting on an external factor for this water meter to show up. It took them an additional 2 months to get that water meter in there, but at the same time, my buyers are going crazy, right? Because this is obviously a huge stretch of time that they got to figure out what to do with their stuff in the moving truck and all that, just where they're going to live. This is a huge problem, and anymore, they've really tightened up the schedule, especially since we've had a slowdown in the market. We're not moving as fast as we were before, which in reality is a good thing. A lot of the homes are coming much, much cleaner. A lot of the inspection reports that I'm seeing are coming much, much cleaner than they were back in the 2021, 2022 days. So they're having more time to tighten things up and make things a more completed package, which ultimately is what you want. So to wrap that point up, you want to make sure that you have a roundabout time where you understand, like, okay, it's going to be 3 to 4 months till I close. It's going to be 6 to 8 months till I close. And you want to have a separate contingency plan just in case that doesn't happen, because things happen, especially as we head into summer. We're going into hurricane season. That's one of the things that you can almost count on will delay the transaction. You could have closing and then they couldn't, closing in let's say October, and they couldn't bind an insurance policy because we were in the cone. And when we have a hurricane coming and we're in the cone, no insurance is putting any new policies out. They're waiting until it's gone. So that could delay you a week, 2 weeks, depending on what's going on. And secret number 5 is even brand new homes have issues. And this is one of the things, like, I harp on everyone. Get an inspection. May cost you $600 to $1,000 depending on if you're doing how many inspections you're doing, but it's 100% worth it. Every builder, every sales rep will tell you, oh, well, we have a quality assurance team, we have a third-party inspector, we do all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, those people are getting paid by that builder. So they want to keep them happy as much as they can. If you look at any builder, you look at their reviews on Google or Zillow or wherever, you're going to see that there's people that complain, and most builders out there don't have great reviews. And because the people who are happy are like, yeah, I paid a high price for a home, I expect it to be good, they're not going to give you a review, right? But the people who are unhappy are going to let you know, and they do 100% of the time on Google reviews. So if you look up any builder, you see some reviews, there's ones that's like, I read through them and I'm like, this is obvious that this person didn't have an inspection and they should have. They opted to save the $400 to $600, and now it costs them thousands and thousands of dollars because they didn't have someone watching their back. So that's one of the things you 100% want to make sure. I was reading a review about Lennar over here in St. Augustine Lakes, and from my opinion, my sister and brother-in-law are under contract on a Lennar home right now. We just had their pre-drywall inspection just last week. It came back completely clean, which in reality, I was pretty surprised that there was nothing that this inspector could find, because he's pretty hard-nosed when it comes down to dealing with these builders. So as I was reading the reviews for Lennar at St. Augustine Lakes, and I've already done deals over there, I know the sales rep there, I know the construction managers there, so I'm pretty confident that it's a good place to buy a home. Also, you get a great interest rate. They got a 4.375 interest rate. They got $26,000 in closing cost assistance. They're getting a pretty sweet deal and a new construction home. But when I looked at the reviews over there, there was people like, I moved into my house and there was no insulation in the ceiling. Literally, that takes an inspector going up and going, no insulation here, you got to fix this, right? That little thing could have been easily taken care of if they just had someone watching their back. And guys, these are the 5 secrets that you need to know about, but I also have a PDF file where you can get it here if you just follow this link above, where it has a whole bunch of questions, has a checklist for everything that you need to know about new construction. You don't need to use me to get this checklist, it's free for you. Go ahead and follow the link above. So the pro tip for this is to hire your own third-party inspector. Of course, we have people that we work with all the time that exclusively work on new construction and find all the defects that you need to know about. But you want to make sure, if you're working with me, working with another agent, you're working anywhere in the state of Florida, you hire a third-party inspector and make sure that they're going to go through at all stages of the process. So if you're building from lot, you're going to have a couple different opportunities, but the main one that you want to get is pre-drywall. So before the insulation goes in, before the drywall goes on the wall, you want to have an inspector go out, look at the trusses, look at the frame, look at the systems that are put in terms of HVAC and the plumbing and the electrical, all before the insulation goes on the wall. Once the insulation goes on the wall, it hides a whole bunch. Once you put the drywall on, you can't see a thing. So really, if you are building a house, you need to get that inspection. That's the most important one. And if something does happen down the line, at least you have a leg to stand on, right? And say like, oh, well, I had this third-party inspector and this came up, right? Could this possibly be your fault as the builder? So you want to make sure that you get that inspection. You can also do like when they're pouring the pad, you can do a concrete inspection, make sure that they're doing it right. And then at the end, you want to do a final inspection. So if you're building from lot, you can do a concrete inspection, pre-drywall inspection, and a final inspection. And the final inspection is going to be like, hey, this window doesn't operate correctly, you know, very basic stuff that you could see and feel on your own, but the inspector is going to go through, he's going to have a process, he's going to go through and check all the outlets, make sure all the GFCIs are in the right place, make sure that, you know, like for example, a refrigerator is on its own dedicated line back to the panel. There are a whole bunch of different things that an inspector can do that you want to make sure is done, but the most important one, please get this inspection, is the pre-drywall inspection. Now, many of the homes in our area are move-in ready, so the builder's already done. It could close in the next 30, 45, 60 days. So the drywall's already on the wall. I'd still 100% recommend getting a final inspection because at the end of the day, you're having another person watch your back. And the hard thing is like if the builder's doing a good job, the inspector's going to come back and say like, oh, you know what, this outlet's a little crooked, right? And like that's very nitpicky, but that's what you want. If you get like a nitpicky type of thing where it's like, hey, this is the only thing they can find, the outlet's a little crooked, not a big deal. That's what you want to hear. So yeah, it may cost you $400 to $500, but you also have peace of mind. And guys, that is it. Those are the 5 secrets that you need to know about before you sign a contract for any builder within this entire state of Florida here. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida. Until next time.